Welcome to Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Mare, and we're breaking down the world of pro wrestling.
From the eyes of a smart fan.
And a casual fan, and everyone in between.
Whether you're a lifelong fan
or just getting into it,
you've got a ringside seat with us.
All right, we've yelled about WWE, we've fantasy booked like we're on the creative team payroll, and we've emotionally processed at least 3 dramatic camera zooms. But now
we put the sports entertainment glitter down and step into something a little more stiffer.
Because while WWE is giving us cinematic entrances and storyline swerves over in New Japan Pro Wrestling, they're saying that's cute, now hold this forearm.
We're leaving the bright lights and 20-minute monologues behind and heading to the land of strong style, respectful crowds, and matches that sound like 2 oak trees colliding in the middle of the ring.
Different vibe, different pace, same chaos, just with a little more ice packs afterwards.
Let's take this trip to Japan and break down what went down at New Beginning in Osaka.
All right. So we start off with the tag team match, the Unbound Co., which is Hiromu Takahashi and Taji Ishimura, pick up the win against United Empire, which is Francisco Akira and Jacob Austin Young. 9 minutes and 40 seconds. Steve, how'd you feel about this match?
So this was the final New Japan match for Hiromu Takahashi, and he didn't get as much shine here as he did later in the show, but, nice way to send off one of the best juniors of the last 10, 15 years.
Where do you think is the best place for Hiromu to land, Joe? Where would you like to see him now that he's done with New Japan?
Anywhere but WWE. And I mean, I'm not, everyone that listens to this, knows I'm a big, pro wrestling side of things fan as opposed to sports entertainment, even though I love, WWF and WWE. But I think he is better suited in AEW. If he wants to come to the States, that's where he needs to be. I mean, history has shown, in the past that, a junior heavyweight from Japan, going into WWE's brands is not a good fit. They don't, book them well. They don't feature them. Look at what, I know, and it was the black and gold brand towards the tail end there, but Kushida was there years ago, and, they didn't really do a whole lot with him either, and he was their kind of the top, junior heavyweight in New Japan at the time when he left. And, he ended up in NXT when NXT was on the tail end of their run there, where they were the best wrestling promotion in the world, and they didn't do anything with him. So, I mean, I would say if he wants to come to the States, AEW, Ring of Honor is probably his best bet. I mean, he could make probably, him and Mystico could make a fortune in selling out Arena Mexico every Friday night. You know what I mean? So he's got options, but I don't think WWE is where he should go.
Do you think, Steve, that his gimmick and Daryl the Cat and everything, that wouldn't really translate to the WWE audience?
No. Half the WWE fan base isn't going to know who Hiromu is. And if WWE was going to sign anybody, I mean, they would have signed Naito before they'd sign Hiromu. Me personally, I don't even think AEW is, a good fit for him. Yeah, he could work some Ring of Honor, but how much are you going to get on that return for that investment? I fear he's gonna run into like Naito is, where it's not as much of a need for him as it would have been 5-6 years ago, and he would probably be better off doing like indie shows like GCW, MLW, do some NWA spots. He's not going to make the most, but it would help build up his value. But he's probably better off in like DT, or he could go to Progress. Rev Pro would be another option. But CMLL, if you bring Naito in with him, I mean, reforming, LIJ in CMLL would be fun and it'd be huge. And I think having Naito doing those shows maybe once, twice a month would also build up CMLL even further.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I said, like, I think his upside, in the States, obviously, is AEW Ring of Honor, but I think his best bet is CMLL. I mean, they could really feature him. He can work that style. He can mix in strong style with lucha. And then they still have the partnership. He could still pop into AEW. He could still go back to New Japan. I think that's probably where he would be better off overall. Like obviously, we're not in his position and financial situation and everything, so that's a different story. But I think us talking as fans, I think you know, booking wise and career wise, I mean, I think he would probably be better off there. I agree with Steve 100%. CML is where he should be.
Yeah, it would be cool if he could bring back, like you said, Phyllis and Gobernables de Japón. I think that would be, a great place to do it and, just so fun to watch.
Yeah.
All right. So then the next match was a tag team match. The War Dragons, which is Drilla Maloney and Shingo Takagi, pick up the win against the United Empire. That's the Great Khan and Hanare. 9 minutes and 24 seconds. Joe, how'd you feel about that match?
I actually I'm not a huge fan of the Great Khan, but I thought the match was entertaining. They all seem to work hard. Drilla is really really solid. I mean, he's up and coming. Obviously, he's making a name for himself now. People are starting to see him as a player. Shingo's always been great. So overall, I thought the match was good. I liked the end there where Drilla was like he re-signed with New Japan, so that was a nice little thing at the end there. But it was a good physical match. I think that there's a future there for Drilla, no doubt.
And
Yeah,
go ahead, babe.
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, you had mentioned that, it's the United Empire's not the same since Osprey left.
Yeah, it's lost a lot of its luster, and I'm ready for them, similar to what they did with the Bullet Club. Make it something different. United Empire is not what it was, but if Osprey is going to start coming back to New Japan, that could change things. Joe, I'm a huge Great Okan fan. I think he's very entertaining. His friendship with MJF a few years ago over Twitter was absolutely fantastic. And similar to how they use Cruz as his spokesperson, I'm dying for MJF to come to Japan and that partnership of him and the Great Okan. I think that could do big business similar to MJF and Adam Cole. I think it would be very entertaining.
I don't disagree with you. I don't know. There's just something about about the presentation. I just never got into it. I guess he might be my Toriano. I don't know.
No, that's bad.
I mean, I'm not on that level like Steve is with Toriano, but no, it's just like, and I have nothing against the guy. I obviously don't know him personally. He might be a super nice guy, but just the way they present him, just not my cup of tea. But yeah, it's just that's just kind of how I get that vibes.
Now I'm gonna have to check out the Great Okan because that is huge for you to say that he's your Toro Yano, because knowing how Steve feels about Toro Yano is like, you gotta be pretty bad if you're on that level.
Yeah, we should get
hate
some Toriano Christmas cards for Steve every year.
You know, it might be the end of the podcast if we did that. I don't know if we'd survive it.
Good point.
I wouldn't interview Toro Yano even if he wanted to come on here.
Would, because I want to ask him about his capri pants.
We'd be doing that podcast alone.
I'll do it with Joe, and then you could do the Great Okan podcast with me, since Joe probably won't do that one.
There you go. That works.
All right, let's talk about this never open weight 6-man tag team title match. So Bishamon and Oleg Bolton defeat TMDK in 12 minutes and 20 seconds. Steve, tell me how you felt.
This was a really fun match, and the last few times Oleg and Hartley have squared up, the people in Japan love it. It's two big beefy dudes going at it, and that's not something New Japan has a lot of. So they should definitely play it up, and it shows them, hey, give them something a little bit different, and you'll get those reactions. So maybe they need to go out and book some bigger dudes, sign some bigger dudes, and just try to stand out in the show. But it was a real entertaining match.
Oh yeah, that. No, that was actually a solid match. I thought. Both teams worked well together. I mean, you got Zack Sabre Jr. in there, so you can never never go wrong with Zack Sabre Jr. And like Steve touched on, Jackson looked good, motivated. So overall, I mean, I thought those teams worked really, really well together.
All right. We're going to move on to the IWGP Global Heavyweight Title #1 contendership match. Andrade El Idolo defeats Gabe Kidd in 14 minutes and 20 seconds. Steve, talk to me about this match. I know you like Gabe Kidd.
Yeah, this was a really fun match, and it sure seems like Gabe Kidd is going to be leaving New Japan sooner rather than later with the way things have been booked. But Andrade has been great since returning to wrestling from being on the sidelines in WWE. He's perfect for New Japan. And now that he's the #1 contender for the global title, I really hope he gets a run with it because it would be a huge addition to New Japan to get someone else with a title somewhere that can be defended all over the world because Andrade's all over the place. He's been in Mexico, he's been in Germany, he's all over the US, Australia. So, really would like to see him get a run here.
Yeah, I'm all in for that. I mean, this match was really good. Andrade is having a he's having a run, man. I mean, he hasn't had a run like this since he was La Sombra under the hood in CMLL. So solid match. He's been, like you said, Steve, he's been everywhere right now. He's literally wrestling all over the world and having fantastic matches. This was a good match as well. Gabe Kidd's not quite at his 2025 level, I don't think. Not that his ability's gone down. I just don't think he's as over as he was last year. But they had a really good match, good hard hitting match. So I was all in for it.
All right. Then we had a singles match between Callum Newman and David Finley. Callum picked up the win in 13 minutes and 53 seconds. David Finley is on his way out, right, Steve?
Yeah, this was our second goodbye of the night. Seems like he's headed to NXT after 11 years in New Japan. I feel like this was the best his character's looked since he's been in Japan, and I'm not sure how successful he's going to be in, WWE or NXT. I think he'd be a way better fit in TNA because there's just a lot going on at the top of the card in WWE, and TNA is a little bit of a talent influx at the moment. So someone like David Finley could really make an impact there.
He's not
Yeah,
going to
I
get
mean, he would
the
be.
Fit Finley rub because he was his son.
Fit
I mean, he
Finley didn't
could.
even.
A little rub. A little rub.
No, I mean, I think he would be good. TNA would be a really good fit for him if they brought him in and put him right into the title picture. I think that would be good. I don't really want to see him go to NXT. I think that would water him down a lot. If anything, like I think TNA, I think they could slot him in. Back in with Juice Robinson and Jay White when they come back. In AEW, that'd be a great fit, obviously. Um, but if that's not anything on the horizon, I mean, I think I agree with Steve. He's probably better off in TNA right now because he could be slotted in at the top of that title picture.
And they could use the help in TNA, right? They don't really have a lot going for them right now.
No, not really. I mean, Trick Williams isn't there. Joe Hendry isn't there. Cardona left. So I mean, there's some holes to fill, and the Hardys aren't getting any younger.
Yeah, yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
They feel like they've been around for 100 years at this point. No disrespect, obviously, but yeah, I mean, I feel like they've bounced around so much the last 15 years. It's like they're obviously in their mid late 40s, going here. So it's one of those things where they're going to have to slow down at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah, Jeff's
definitely.
Jeff's debut was against Razor Ramon, the original Razor Ramon.
Yeah, and like 93 or 94. Yeah,
Yeah, he was 16.
yeah, yeah. Crazy how the times have changed, right?
That's crazy. All right. We had a never open weight title match. Ren Narita defeats Aaron Wolf in 2 minutes and 8 seconds, and there was a title change. That seems crazy. All right. How did you feel about this match, Joe? What do you think about that?
I told you, I told you about the booking decision when I was watching the show, and this is what I wanted to
Yeah.
talk about.
You did. This was well, we go back to people think they're protecting their bookers think they're protecting their workers. This is one of the worst booking decisions I probably have ever seen in my 40 years as a fan of professional wrestling. You have a person that they've been building since they signed him, an Olympic gold medalist, a Japanese native, a legitimate athlete, tough guy, could probably clean the floor with anybody in the back in the locker room if he wanted to, and because they said, oh, it was basically a 5-on-1 with referee distraction, and they beat the guy in I think it was under 3 minutes. I can't remember the time exactly off the top of my head, but this was just a terrible, terrible decision. I don't know what their mindset is here. I mean, they literally have to have this guy. He's got to win the New Japan Cup and the G1 and win the IWGP title at the Tokyo Dome next year to make up for this. This is how poorly this was done. And the bad thing is he's nowhere near ready to do any of that. This guy, like I said, legitimate athlete, but he's nowhere near a worker, a pro wrestler at the level of a New Japan main eventer. He's nowhere close. This was just terrible. I don't know why they decided to do this. If they think they're protecting him by taking a mid card title off of him, it was a terrible decision. They could have built him slowly with that belt, had him beat, legitimate mid card talent, and had him learn how to work. And they did not do any of that. So I like Steve said, terrible decision. And I'll let him go from here. But I couldn't believe what I saw.
Yeah, this was a total shocker. It makes me wonder, have they soured on Aaron Wolf after 2 matches? Because I can't believe they took it off him after 2 minutes. I told you while I was watching the show, is it time for Gato to give up the book? Because here's someone who, obviously was a very huge influence in getting Wrestle Kingdom on network television in Japan.
Yep.
And this same card, they announced that Dominion is also going to be on network television. And this guy,
Tanahashi.
yeah, they built this guy up, and if you're not sure he can do the job, then you should have rebooked the card, starting with Wrestle Kingdom. This guy should be in tag team matches or 6-man tags, where they can protect him, and they have him get the hot tag and clean house and pick up the win. That's what they should be doing for like the first 6 months. But they're running it like 1992, and they think they have something in like a Kensuke Sasaki, and they don't have that because Aaron Wolf is not a pro. He's not a pro wrestler. He's a judo.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing that kills me is like you put your, a secondary title on this guy, at Wrestle Kingdom, which is fine.
In his first match.
In his first match, right. So what you do going forward is, like you said, you book him in tags, 6-mans, and then you have him, work Korakuen Hall. He works in Kyoto, he works the small buildings throughout Japan, on these smaller shows that are just storyline fillers, right? But he can beat, your mid-card guys and learn how to work. And then by the time you want him to go to New Japan Cup, G1, eventually I wouldn't obviously do it next year, but maybe the year after, have him go, maybe win the G1, after he has 2 years under his belt and he's been working, solid, matches a couple times a week and he learns how to work. Like, yeah, that's good because he's a big name and people love the legitimate athletes over there. But what you just did is you literally just cost yourself, almost 3 years of booking because that just trashed this guy. They didn't protect him. They didn't, it was 5-on-1. Yeah, it was a 5-on-1, but you made him look like a pushover. He just got his ass kicked, and it's his second match. Like, what are you thinking here? A second singles match. What are you thinking here? Like, it was just the execution was terrible. The booking was terrible. I was flabbergasted by the entire thing. I can't believe that they put all the time in to push him, and they did that with it. It's unbelievable.
Oh, who knew that was such a loaded question for a 2-minute match?
I mean, yeah, Mary, honestly, but like the thing that like people that, in the States here that don't necessarily follow Japanese wrestling, like the legitimate athletes that go into pro wrestling from Japan, they're treated on a totally different scale than your young lion that comes up through the dojo. They're just seen as just like, oh my gosh, they're a New Japan Pro Wrestling. That's why they call it King of Sport over there, because Antonio Inoki made it into this like larger than life, thing. So people see New Japan, they're like, oh, if you go to New Japan, like you must be unbelievable. And if you're a legitimate athlete, like Olympic gold medalist, like he was, it's like, oh my gosh, and what they just did was they just killed him,
Yeah.
This is the equivalent of 1997. They bring in Kurt Angle. they have him win the Intercontinental title from like let's say Jeff Jarrett, and then the next month they have him lose the title in under 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's what this is.
Yeah. You're 100% right. I mean, that's legitimately the equivalent of the Japanese equivalent of what Steve just said. Yeah. 100% correctly. Yeah. Yeah.
So his future is not looking so bright in New Japan then anymore.
I mean, he's in the New Japan Cup, so I mean, he's got a shot, but I didn't see it in that Evil match. People like that Evil match. I didn't like it. And in
No.
any of the smaller cards, I haven't seen anything from him. I mean, he's not ready for one-on-one matches. This is like Eric Watts in 92 WCW.
Yeah, true. True. Yeah.
All right, let's move on. We had an IWGP Tag Team title match. The Knockout Brothers pick up the win against Shota Umino and Yui Uemura in 19 minutes and 37 seconds. Steve, why don't you tell us about this match? What'd you think of it?
What a turnaround from the previous match. I absolutely loved this match. So far, this is my tag team match of the year in the early stages of 2026. I think both teams are great, but the Knockout Brothers are their next level. I think they should be pushed to the moon. This is probably the best tag team in Japan since the Young Bucks, since Gallows and Anderson. These guys are great. After the match, the Knockout Brothers were challenged by the Gates of Agony for the New Japan show in New Jersey, and I would love to see this match run back any day of the week. The pairing of Uemura and Shota is great. Two young guys that couldn't get it done so far as singles. Man, they clicked as a great babyface tag team. And yeah, Yui Uemura has a ton of potential. He gives me a lot of young Naito vibes, like when you would see Naito right after his Mexican excursion. But yeah, this is great. You can definitely see why WWE was so interested in the Knockout Brothers. I'm glad they didn't go because Yuto Ice would have gone nowhere. Oscar would have gotten booked, but yeah, these guys are fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Shota Umino, Yui Mori, they're great. Like you said, Steve, they work well together. This match was solid. I mean, you know, it was very hard hitting. You know, it was definitely the perfect perfect match to kind of come back from that awful Aaron Wolf booking there. So I think both teams worked well together. It was very action packed. They hit hard. They were definitely, you know, they were definitely trying to entertain the crowd and have a good match. So I was perfectly fine with that. You know, solid match all around.
All right, and then we had an IWGP Heavyweight title match. Yota Tsuji picks up the win against Jake Lee in 23 minutes and 40 seconds. Joe, how did you feel about this match?
I thought Jake Lee did well in this match. It was a good performance. You know, he sold well. You know, Suji's good. I mean, he's been good since he came back. Um, you know, a couple years ago. I think he was a little nervous. It looked like he just was kind of like he wanted to have that kind of like have that perfect match, you know. But you know, it wasn't anything in terms of a blow away or hey, you know, you got to go watch this match. I mean, not by any means, but it was solid. I thought the booking of this match was fine. You know, they didn't do anything super over the top or crazy here, which was good. I mean, because considering when you know, you have a 5-on-1 singles title match, you know, a couple matches before that, you know, so this was fine. You know, it was fine, good. Not like I said, I think it was just kind of something there that they were like, you know what, this is just kind of what we're gonna do right now until we can get, you know, into April. So I don't hate it. I know there was a lot of people online that didn't like it. I didn't hate it. Like I said, it was fine. It wasn't, you know, anything to, like I said, you don't need to go out of your way to see it, but it wasn't horrible. It wasn't bad. It was, I mean, it was a fine match. You know, they did what they needed to accomplish and, you know, they go forward from here. So I'll let Steve continue.
Yeah, I was one of those people complaining online. I thought this match stunk. This was a lackluster first defense for Yota Tsuji, and I loved Tsuji's run last year in New Japan Cup. I thought he had some banger matches. His match with Takeshita was awesome, but I'm on board with Dave Meltzer. I think Jake Lee stinks. He's got a horrible facials. I mean, he's the Japanese Orange Cassidy if Orange Cassidy couldn't wrestle because he just has no emotion. There's nothing to him. And granted, yeah, that could be character, but man, his character stinks. There's nothing entertaining about him. I don't think he's that good in the ring, and he just doesn't generate the interest or reaction from the crowd. And I think Suji versus Andrade is going to be a lot of fun, and I think that could bring out
Yeah.
the best in him. I mean, if you have Finley leaving, have him go out against Suji in the main event because at least
Yeah.
Finley will go all out. You'll get the Gato rub, and he'll give 110%, or even have thy Jay, one final goodbye against Hiromu because people would have bought into that a lot more.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. Like I said, I mean, I didn't, I didn't hate it. I know, like I said, and everyone, we all have our opinions on things, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't the match you or I would have booked, Steve. You know what I mean? Like we talked about that right after they cut that angle, and we're like, what is going on here? Like Jake Lee and Yota Tsuji, but I mean, yeah, no, I mean, honestly, like you said, I like the Finley idea. That would actually been really, really good. That would have been a great match. Those two could have had a good 20, 25-minute match that people would have been like, you got to see this match. And we didn't obviously get that from this. Was it a disappointment? Yeah. Did I personally think it was horrible? No. But like I said, it was what it was. It's just one of those, they didn't really have much going on. And you and I think differently, I think, than the bookers do at times because we're fans. I think that's kind of where they left it. They're just like, this is what we're going to throw out there. So we'll see what's next. I think, like you said, Andrade and Suji is going to be fantastic. I can't wait to see that match. It's going to be great.
We've bowed respectfully. We've absorbed 47 forearms to the soul, and we've emotionally recovered from what New Japan Pro Wrestling calls just warming up. But now,
Now we trade the disciplined silence and thunderous claps for pyro, chops, and somebody diving off something they absolutely do not need to be diving off of.
because if New Japan Pro Wrestling is precision and punishment,
All Elite Wrestling is hold my energy drink and watch this.
we're going to go from strong style to stunt style, from methodical storytelling to controlled anarchy, from respectful applause to this is awesome before the match even hits second gear.
Let's shift gears and talk AEW.
All right, we had a six-man tag team match. The Death Riders, which for this round was Claudio Castagnoli, John Moxley, and Pac, picking up a win against the Don Callis family. So Josh Alexander, Konosuke Takeshita, and Mark Davis. This match was a 15-minute and 5-second match. Steve, talk to me about this Claudio and Luchador mask situation.
Yeah, so he came out in a luchador mask because right now Claudio is currently the CMLL World Champion. So that was great to see him playing that up and the partnership being front and center. The end of this match was great. Mox versus Takeshita is what you want to see. But man, Josh Alexander stood out. He's super talented and a great worker, and I'm glad he got to showcase that.
Did you have any
Yeah,
thoughts? Go
yeah,
ahead.
no, I like the. No, you're you're good. No, I liked when Claudio came out. That was a good look for sure. No, those groups always have great matches. I mean, they're always anytime you put any kind of combination of those two factions together, you're going to get an entertaining, excellent pro wrestling contest. So anytime they're on TV, I'm watching. They always entertain me. So I was perfectly fine with how everything went.
Josh Alexander's the one that wears the headgear. All right. Then we had the AEW TNT title match. Kyle Fletcher picks up the win against Tommaso Ciampa in 16 minutes and 35 seconds. Um,
Another week and another Kyle Fletcher banger. You can always expect to hear Protostar praise from me. And at this point, how can anyone dispute him? The look, the in ring, the way he carries himself. He's the total package. I don't really like Champa losing this early. And I do feel Fletcher is ready for the world title picture, but we'll see where it goes. Champa was taking everything here, and some of these bumps to the neck is something to keep an eye on as he's in AEW more with that surgically repaired neck. But I thought this was a fantastic match, and just shows you what some of these underutilized WWE guys can do when given the time and the showcase to really put on go-to matches.
Joe, did you have any thoughts about the match that you wanted to add?
Yeah, so this was an incredible match. Like Steve said, you have these guys that are tremendous workers that are, coming over and really showing what they can do. I do agree also with Steve that probably a little too soon to take that belt off of him. I know why they did it. I get it. But, if you're here's the thing, if your plan was to do that ladder match in Australia, then don't pull the belt off of Briscoe and then have Kyle just win it in Australia, and then you just keep Ciampa off TV for a few weeks. And if you want to, push Kyle back into the world title picture, in a month or two or whatever after the pay-per-view in March, you can do that. So, I mean, that is what it is. It's just little things like that kind of quite, we question. Overall, though, I mean, can't go wrong with those two. And like Steve said, I think he's going to get that world title sooner than later. So great match. I love to see it. I feel like we're getting mini pay-per-views almost every other week with AEW. So just keep them coming.
I feel like whenever there's like a rapid title change, like it's a little bit of whiplash for me as like the casual watcher. Like I just so happened to see Ciampa, win the belt against Mark Briscoe, and then for him to turn around and just drop it to Kyle Fletcher, it's like a little bit too much to me. It's so short. It doesn't mean as much that title run because it was so short. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
Oh,
makes
yeah.
total sense.
Yeah. You're right in line with Steve and I, Mayor. I mean, I think there's a time and place to do the quick title changes. I don't like when they do it with a new like a debuting talent. If you're going to do a transition like what they did with not that I was a huge fan of it because of the storyline implication of how big the title change was when Hangman beat Mox and then Samoa Joe, beat Hangman fairly quickly, and then MJF gets it. It's like I get you want Samoa Joe as a transitional champion. That's fine. In a normal situation, there's no issue there. You can do that every couple years. But when you do it to somebody that, you know, had that huge storyline like Hangman did, and the culmination of that feud, in Texas at All In. Not that Ciampa losing was anywhere near that, but when you have a debuting talent that wins a belt on his first night in a new company, and then 10, 11 days you pull it off of them, it's like, well, okay, cool. It's like it loses meaning. So there's a time and place. I don't like when they do things like that. So I'm okay. I was fine with the match. The match was great. Run it back next week. I'm good with it. Let's see it again. But when they switch belts like that, I'm not a big fan.
Yeah. All right. Then we had a tag team match. Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong defeat Clark Connors and Daniel Garcia in 9 minutes and 5 seconds. Steve, your notes, they look very excited. Why don't you tell us how you feel about this match?
Yeah, Roddy finally did what we all thought he was going to do, and he pulled a Rick Martel.
Yeah.
And that was about the best thing that happened in this. I didn't like the ending. Not
So what's a Rick Martel, though? You're going to have to ask, or you're going to have to tell me.
So Rick Martel is where, you're in a tag team match, and in the middle of said match, you just walk out, you quit. You quit on your partner and you leave them high and dry to essentially fight a handicap match.
The mayor. So
So
what you need to do is tomorrow or your next day off when you have time, you need to put on WrestleMania 5, and you need to watch Brainbuster Strike Force, and you will see what a Rick Martel is. So yes.
The fun thing is about me is that I have seen that match and I am like a goldfish. I forgot. So every time I watch, old WrestleManias, it's like the first time for me. So I'll definitely give it a watch for the second/first time.
There you go. You'll be all set.
So, did Orange Cassidy winning this match make him look strong or make Garcia and Connors look weak?
I mean, I just hate the fact that you essentially win a handicap match against these two big, bad, tough dudes. Here we go again. Someone new coming into the company in Clark Connors, who had a great match against Darby Allin, couldn't pull it off, And then he's in a tag team match where the guy's partner walks out on him, and Garcia and Connors still can't get it done. So, I mean, yeah, Orange Cassidy's tough, but if he's beating both these guys in a handicap match, essentially, then he should be in line for some kind of title match against Mox at the very least.
True. Yeah, I don't disagree there at all.
Yeah, I think that makes sense as well. Um, Especially if he can take on two guys, you know? Then we had the AEW World Tag Team Title #1 contendership three-way match. The Young Bucks pick up the win against Private Party and the Rascals. And this match was 13 minutes and 40 seconds. I feel like this match probably has the potential to be really fun. The Young Bucks are always high energy and fun. I mean, this is what, the first time we've seen Private Party in a while. And then, you know, the Rascals are pretty fun. Joe, how'd you feel about this match?
I felt like I was watching PWG all over again.
Oh my God, I forgot about PWG.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was just like high energy the entire time, people coming in and out. It was an old school, part of the Young Bucks. Really, this is why the Young Bucks are so popular, where because of matches like this, they had two good teams to work with. I was perfectly fine with how everything went down. You know, they get their #1 contendership, which I'll tell you what, a lot of people were sour on the Bucks, last year and the year before, and it's like when you really look at their body of in-ring work, they are probably going to go down as one of the best tag teams of all time, and that's a short list. I mean, you could probably argue 20 teams, give or take, and that's going back, 40, 50 years. So, I loved it. It was fun to watch. They have kind of rejuvenated themselves too. They've gotten in really, really great shape. Their physiques have changed, especially Nick. They're very toned. You can tell they're in the weight room now. No, not that they've been body guys their whole careers because they haven't been, but as they've gotten a little bit older, they're starting to take care of themselves better to kind of extend their life, their in-ring life. So I'm good with it. I love it. I want to see what's going to happen next. I know people are like, "Oh, it's Bucks and FTR again," but you know what? Sign me up. Two of the best of all time. I'm in. Let's do it.
Steve's literal note says now we get Young Bucks and FTR again.
Well, like I said, I'm in. I'm 100% in. Sign me up. I love both of those teams. They're on my top list of tag teams of all time. I mean, their bodies of work are incredible. Let me see it. Let's do it tomorrow. I'm in. So let's go.
What'd you think of that match, babe?
Yeah, it was a fun match. Nice to see Private Party getting a booking after 13 months. So finally, they're able to get back in the ring after losing. I don't understand why it took 13 months, but we go on about that forever. But yeah, Bucks and FTR, it'll be a fun match again. Just makes me wonder, where's Edge and Christian in all this? Their last win was against FTR, who then went on to become tag team champions. So we'll see when those guys come back. But yeah, FTR and Young Bucks, you can watch it any day of the week and it'll always be good.
Steve, do
I
you
do.
think they're gonna save one of those matches? Whether it's, I'm gonna say it's probably gonna be FTR because of the history, but do you think they're saving that match for Wembley?
I don't think the FTR match they're saving for Wembley. I think they're going to save the Young Bucks and Cope and Christian for Wembley because I could
Okay.
see
Okay.
I could see Edge and Christian winning in at Double or Nothing in Queens, and then holding the titles, and then getting that last run in through the summer where they have basically a summer as tag team champions. And then I could see them dropping the titles to the Young Bucks at Wembley.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't hate that at all. I just my thought process was because they're such great friends. Like, do they just try to do that match as, hey, we're all best friends in real life, so that's going to be our, last hurrah or something like that. But yeah, no, I don't hate that either. I think it's a good route too.
Yeah, I think, we can get into Hope's retirement, which is going to be coming up quicker than people think in October. But I think he's going to go out either against Christian in his goodbye match, or he's going to go out putting somebody over like Cena just did, because that's
Right.
just the way he is and his mindset.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't disagree there. all those guys that are our age or older, they're gonna want to put people over, no doubt.
And the perfect person to give that rub to, Kyle Fletcher,
Yeah.
because then that can set up. Because the way I envision this, and this is all health related, but if Osprey gets back for Wembley, I think he wins the title in Wembley, and I could see at the end of the year, like Tony Khan likes to do, change titles at the end of the year to start the year fresh. I could see Osprey holding the title from Wembley all the way to World's End, and that's where we get the Kyle Fletcher crowning moment.
Yeah, we're definitely getting close. So yeah, it could happen for sure.
You guys would make great chess players because you move all the parts around to shows that I forget even exist.
We do our best.
All right, let's move on to the women's AEW Women's World Title strap match. This was a bloodbath. Tekla defeats Chris Statlander, which was a shock to me, in 14 minutes even. It was a bloodbath. Steve, talk to me about this match. What'd you think of it? How do you feel having Tekla being the champ?
Yeah, this was a big title change here, and Ekla's getting a chance to, run with the ball. The triangle has been looking strong lately, and like you said, Mayor, this is a violent, bloody match, but was a lot of fun. I think it should have been in a different place in the card because following the Champa and Fletcher match was going to be really tough. That's my only criticism. Nothing wrong with the match itself. It was very entertaining. But I think if they just would have swapped those spots in the card, it would have made it flow a lot better. But, you know, we'll see what happens. It's a lot to put on Tekla. I'll say that.
Yeah, I agree. I think the match itself was I enjoyed it. I didn't see them changing the belt, so the win was actually a surprise. I mean, when they did the finish, I was like, "She's gonna lose," and she did lose. Like, I was kinda like, "Oh, okay." Like, the way they did it kinda caught me off guard, but to a good point. But I think Tekla has momentum. She's solid. I enjoy when she's in the ring. I think they have potential here to, create a bigger star. Stat like we kind of talked about, a while back. Stat went from kind of that little alien gimmick thing that she was doing, and then she just kind of blew up. So, I mean, she's really, really good now. So Tekla now getting the win there, I think it's good. It's a good rub. I think they can do a lot with the women there. There's good feud potential. They have some alliances there. They have, some factions and things like that. So I think there's a lot they can do. They can get some legs out of this. So I'm actually really, really excited for what they're going to do going forward.
I thought that the promo that Chris Statlander cut, I think it was in the next show. I don't think it was in Dynamite, where she's like gushing blood. I don't even know what she said. I just thought it was so badass to watch her dripping blood all over the place and talking at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah, that was
Steve,
really well done. I agree, Mayor. Really
it
well
was
done. Yeah.
such a good visual, and she was just like bleeding like a stuck pig, and it was just it was great. It was badass. And I don't like the bloody stuff, so I mean that's coming from me here. But Steve, I mean, do you feel like this is a good swap? I mean, you kind of touched on it, Joe, here, but is she going to be able to carry that division? I like Tekla. I think that she's awesome, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Tekla's really good. And sometimes you got to give people a chance and see what they can do when they're on top. And this is where we're going to find out. It's going to be sink or swim for her. I think having the Triangle of Madness helping her protect the title is going to be good to, piss a lot of people off. But then it makes you think, you got to think down the line, who's going to be the one to take it from her? And the first name that comes to my mind is Tony Storm, getting her back on top. But what would be the ultimate comeback tale would be, depending on how long they have her out, is a Mercedes Monet.
Yeah, no doubt.
How long
She's
she out
always
for?
she's always in the picture for sure.
She just posted on X not too long ago that she's in Mexico doing stem cell. So I'm not sure how long that's going to hold her out or how they're protecting her or, where they're going to position her. But it could definitely, be part of that redemption angle, or if they just have her continue to lose and build that up.
Build up her breakdown.
Yep. Absolutely.
yeah.
All right, let's change gears here and talk about AEW Grand Slam. That was this past Saturday in Australia. The first match was the AEW Continental title match, Jon Moxley versus Konosuke Takeshita, and it went to a 20-minute time limit draw. Um, Steve, how did you feel about this match?
I'd rather have a draw than have a no contest or a DQ or a count out, anything like that. So I'll gladly take this any day of the week. It was a good match. It was fun. Both guys went all out, and I can definitely see them running it back here again.
Yeah, they kind of teased that, post match. I'm sure everyone probably saw the social media posts after that match. They obviously showed it on TV, but they had Moxley go up to the referee, and can see him talking, and then referee goes over to Takeshita and he's talking, and it's basically Moxley's like, you know what, the crowd didn't really react to this like we thought because Takeshita was kind of the baby face, so he kind of told the referee, hey, tell him to hit him with my finish and walk out. And that's what they did. So that just shows you the level of worker that John Moxley is. Like he can read the crowd on live TV, and make a 15-second change to the show that really enhances it. So I mean that match was great. I want to see him run it back, obviously, and it just shows you how great Moxley is. Um, that's why he's one of the best in the world, legitimately. So I was good with it.
So that wouldn't happen in a WWE. They would have to do the match as booked. Like the one of their superstars couldn't kind of like make that call in the middle of a match.
Well, it was after the match, but I mean, if it was like a Cody, a Roman, or if like Brock was wrestling and Heyman called it from the mat, they'd be okay with it, but they don't have the leeway in WWE like AEW does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just look at Unreal, where you see Triple H, giving it to LA Knight because they didn't do it the right way or the way they went over it.
Yeah,
So it
exactly.
has to fit the mold exactly.
Gotta
Yes.
follow orders.
Yep.
All right. Then we had an AEW World Title #1 contendership match. Hangman Adam Page picks up the win against Andrade El Idolo. Now this comes after Andrade defeated Kenny Omega and somebody else, right? Didn't he defeat two people already for a #1 contendership?
Yeah, swerve.
And so what do you think the point was of having Adam Page pick up the win with this when it seemed like Andrade was kind of clear cut based on his two previous wins?
I mean, the whole storyline for MJF the last like 6 to 8 months has been to get over Hangman Page. So now MJF has to fight his own, worst enemy, which is Adam Page. And Andrade, I think we could see like a triple threat between Andrade, Kenny, and Swerve to see who gets the next shot at, whoever comes out on top between Hangman and MJF because, Andrade's been on fire. He's winning titles everywhere else in the world. He's got a big match coming up this month against Suji. So, doesn't really hurt him here. He looked great. This was a fantastic match. And yeah, we get to see if MJF can run through Hangman.
All right, the match we've all been waiting for, the mixed tornado tag team match. And this one was the one, right, where they would shave the head of the person who was pinned or counted out or whatever, or tapped out. So, Orange Cassidy and Tony Storm picked up the win against Marina Shafir and Wheeler Yuta. And I remember at one point during the match telling Steve, like, there's no way that they're going to let anybody else get their hair cut except for Wheeler Yuta. And he's like, yes, I know. But I can only speak to the after moment when they did actually cut his hair. And I thought it was so cute that Mox came in and was like, come on, you got to take your medicine, get your hair cut. Let's just do this. But what did you guys think about the match itself leading up to the hair cutting?
I liked it. I think the match was perfectly fine. They did what they had to do. I mean, they went all over the place. I think everyone, like we said, we knew Wheeler was going to get his head shaved. So the ending was perfect. I loved, I don't know why pro wrestling got away from, everyone. If there's anybody in 2026 that thinks pro wrestling is not, a scripted art form, a very athletic and physical art form, but oh, we can't do, men versus women. Okay, I can see that. A lot of people don't want to see a man versus a guy in a total match, but when you do a mixed tag or intergender, whatever you want to call it, with the rules and stuff, like I loved Wheeler pile driving Tony Storm onto those production cases. I loved it. Like it was brutal. It's like, oh my God, like you don't see this on a regular basis, which I'm fine with. And then when you go full circle and, Tony Storm gets the Storm Zero on Wheeler, at the end of the match, it's like that makes sense. Like you can do things like this, not every day, not every week, whatever. But when you do little subtle things where it's like, oh, you kind of remove yourself from the norm and you break this down and think about, oh my God, the story involved here. Like, oh, this makes sense. Like it was fantastic. I loved every minute of this. I thought all four were great, and then you had Mox come out at the end. He's like, no, Wheeler, you're not gonna, weasel yourself out of this. You're going, even though I don't like it, you're gonna go get your head shaved. So again, you're turning John Moxley face subtly. So I loved it.
Yeah, when done right, it can be a valuable tool. It doesn't work for every wrestler, and every pairing won't allow for it, but done once in a while, it's fun to see and entertaining. And you can believe Tony and someone like Wheeler fighting. It's not like Tony was, you know, pile driving Brock Lesnar. You wouldn't believe that. But someone like Wheeler or Yuta, it makes sense. So, when done appropriately and right, it can be entertaining.
Yeah, it was fun. I thought it was well done, and we don't get to see a lot of matches like this anymore, and it was a lot of fun to watch. I enjoyed what I saw of that match. Then we had the AEW Women's World Tag Team Title match. The Babes of Wrath picked up the win against Mega Bad. There's a lot of talent in this ring, a lot, and I enjoyed the match. I did watch it. But Steve, what were your thoughts about the match?
It was just basically a setup for what came after the match, which was the debut of Alina Cross from Australia, who is essentially joining Megan Bain and Penelope Ford. Hopefully, we're getting Bain and Cross as a tag team. But yeah, this was a great showcase for Harley Cameron, a native of Australia. She got most of the match, and we'll see where this goes. But this was more of like a to be continued type deal for me.
Yeah, I thought Lena Cross is an imposing figure, like we talked about a little bit earlier with the other shows. She's very tall. She is a very imposing female competitor. She's taller than Megan Bain, and Megan Bain, probably other than Rhea Ripley, just in terms of look, she might be right up there with those two in terms of the physicality and the look. So yeah, excited to see where this goes. I mean, they have potential. They can do a lot with her. I'm glad they finally have reintroduced her. I think she was on before a few times actually when they did some Australia loops. But yeah, get her back in the mix. I mean, it's a fresh face. I'm always excited when they freshen things up. So let's see what happens here with her in the mix. I'm excited.
They did do like make a show of it too, the size comparison between her and Megan Bain. I mean, you had that moment where they kind of sized each other up there, and I mean, to me at first I was like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? Is she gonna beat up Megan Bain? But no, it was them teaming together. And I think they did do a good job of kind of introducing her and showing what a force she is.
Absolutely.
Okay. Then we had the AEW TNT title ladder match. Kyle Fletcher beats Mark Briscoe. Steve, I know Kyle Fletcher's your guy. How did you feel about that match?
Just another Kyle Fletcher banger. This was my match of the night for the Grand Slam show. They went all out, like we talked about. Them. We They went all out like we thought they would, and Kyle Fletcher delivering that at every moment. He's the real deal. He got his moment in Australia to stand tall as champion. He walked in as champ, walked out as champ. Briscoe came through like we all knew he would. You got to see, tables. You got to see them use the ladders. I mean, this was an all-out war, and I wouldn't expect anything less. The thing now for me is we know where we're going with Fletcher. We know he's eventually gonna get into the world title picture. Where does Mark Briscoe fit in from here? I mean, he's the ultimate baby face. You know, they can never turn him heel because they have all this goodwill built up for him. But where are they going with him now? What's the plan with him? So that's my question for this.
Yeah, good points. I mean, I think, they can't really turn him ever, really, because of Jay and everything. So I think this is something where they leave it as is for now. And then whether it's a year down the line or two, I think they can revisit it. So I think there's potential to just kind of, we are where we are right now. We're going to pivot and go another direction. And then we always have it in the back of our heads. So I think it's always there to be done. That's just kind of where I feel they're at right now.
Right. Then we have our last match of the night, the AEW World Title match. MJF defeats Brody King. I mean, I didn't foresee it going any other way, but how did this match go down? What'd you think?
I thought it was a very good match. MJF came out, looked like a total superstar that he is. Got the big entrance. He always looks amazing. He's the ultimate pro wrestler right now. I think it still sets up the stage for Brody to turn. I thought it could have happened here, especially when Bandito was out there cheering him on and everything. It makes me wonder how all of this political attention is going to go into the booking. Do they change things? Where's that going to go from here? Because even being in Australia, those same ice chants, they popped up again, as it's been mentioned numerous times through, different wrestling, you know, commentators. HBO is, Warner, they're trying to make a big sale right now and they don't want any of this extra attention, and they're getting all kinds of extra attention from political figures to political correspondents. So it's going to be interesting where it goes for Brody King in that regard. But MJF is a total superstar. He's number one in AEW. I don't foresee him losing anytime soon. Like I mentioned earlier, the only way I think he's going to lose that title anytime soon is if Will Ospreay does make it back for Wembley. Other than that, I just see MJF continuing to establish himself as one of the best pro wrestlers in the world right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody thought he was losing this title. They had a more competitive match. Obviously, they did the squash to set this up, which was fine. I don't know where Brody goes from here. Like you said, like they're looking for a TV deal. Their contract's up, I think, next year, if I recall correctly. Warner Brothers is in transition right now, so they're gonna deflect any kind of negative publicity away. So I mean, Brody could get put away for now. Um,
That's it.
Okay. All right. We've argued, we fantasy booked, we've emotionally invested in people who will never text us back.
We ran through WWE, survived the chaos of All Elite Wrestling, and took a respectful yet violent trip through New Japan Pro Wrestling.
And somehow our marriage is still intact.
That's growth.
If you rocked with us today, make sure you subscribe, download, leave a review, tell your wrestling group chat we're better than their hot takes, and come back next week because the road to the next big show, it's heating up.
There will be drama, chair shots, and there will be at least one promo that makes us pause the show and stare at each other blankly.
Until then, he's Mr. Wrestling.
She's Mrs. Wrestling.
And this has been your weekly dose of body slams, bold opinions, and relationship tested wrestling therapy.
We'll catch you next bell.